Alright, so I'm making a video to help go through the conversions so that anybody who's having any trouble with the conversions can work through the example problems with this video or refer to it if they need to. Alright, so first of all, MKS units. So you're probably already familiar with what these are, but just in case, MKS units stand for meters. I'm going to write it out. Meters, kilograms, and seconds. So anytime we're doing computations, we want to make sure our units match. So for example, someplace you've probably seen this a lot is if you're adding like 1/2 plus 1/3. We can't just add those together there because the denominators don't match. So what we want to do is we want to change the halves to thirds. So we would do that by, we can multiply this by 3/3. I'm sorry, not halves to thirds. We want to find a common denominator. So we can change it both to 6. Okay, so now we have 3/6 plus 2/6. All right, and now we can add them together. So just like you need a common denominator when you're adding fractions, when you're doing any kind of computations, you want to make sure that the units match. And in physics, the units for length might have been given in meters or inches or centimeters. So in order to make sure they all have the same units, the first thing you want to do every time you do a calculation is change everything to MKS units. So you're translating whatever units you're given into MKS units. That way everything has the same units and you can do the computations. So these units again, if you're anytime you're dealing with length, you're going to report it in meters. Anytime you're dealing with like weight, you're going to do it in kilograms, and time is in seconds. Okay, so we just saw in that example, and I'll copy it back up here, we had 1/2 plus 1/3. If you want to change things, you can change the way they look without changing their value by multiplying it by 1. So 1/2, we were able to change that to 3/6. We didn't change the value of 1/2, but we changed what it looked like. So when we're doing conversions, we're going to be multiplying by a conversion factor. And I'll show you how to do that in 1 second. But pretty much what we're doing is we're finding 1. We're multiplying the unit, the problem that we have by 1 and changing what it looks like without changing its value. So let's look at an example here. So if we wanted to convert 43,000 feet to miles, what we want to do first is I like to just write down the number off to the left here. Okay, and we're going to multiply it by a conversion factor. So I'm going to set that up here. And what that is it's a fraction that equals 1, but it's going to change our units around. So I want to change feet to miles. Because I want feet to cancel out feet, I'm going to put the feet units in the denominator, because over here they're in the numerator. That way I can cancel them out. So when I'm setting up my conversion factor, the first thing I do is I put my fraction bar, and then I figure out, okay, this is what I'm dealing with right now, what I want to get rid of. So I put it on the other side of the fraction bar so that those will cancel out. And I want to change that to miles, so I'm going to put miles in the top. Okay, and I know you guys probably know how many feet are in a mile, but in the back of your book, for any of the conversion factors you don't know, you have a table back there. And I think this one's even in there too. Yeah, so you can look up any ones that you don't have memorized back here. Okay, and I'm going to put the 5,280 with the feet, and that's 1 mile. So this is equal to 1, because 1 mile is equal to 5,280 feet. In the numerator, I have the same thing that it's equal to the denominator, but it helps, so it doesn't change our value, but it lets us get rid of the unit we don't want, and we're going to be left with miles for our unit. And if I plug this into my calculator, we have 43,000, and we're just multiplying by 1 in the numerator, so I don't need to write anything there. And then we're dividing that by 5,280. All right, so we get 8.143939394. All right. I'm not going to spend too much time getting into this significant digits here, but I'm going to report the answers to the correct number of significant digits. So I'm going to take 1 second to, well, a couple more than a second to talk about it. So significant digits, so whatever this measurement is here, the 43,000 feet, somebody might have measured exactly 43,000 feet, or maybe it was 43,002 and they just rounded it off. So in order to clarify if something was actually measured all the way down, there would be a decimal point, and that would show you that, okay, it was actually measured to the units place. Since the decimal point's not there, we don't know if that really is exactly 43,000 or if it was just rounded off. So we would say that this number has two significant digits. I know that these two digits are accurate, but I don't know if this was rounded off or not. So this has two significant digits. This number down here has three significant digits. So our answer in the end can only have as many significant digits as our number that has the least number of significant digits, and for us it's the 2. So our answer has to be reported to two significant digits. So this 1, is that going to stay the same or go up? That 4 doesn't bump it up, so it's just 8.1 miles. So now our answer is reported to two significant digits because that's the least amount we had when we were doing our computations. All right, so I won't go through that every time, but I am going to report the answers in significant digits, and your book does too. So I just wanted to clarify that a little bit. All right. So next one, we want to convert 57.66 miles per hour, and we want to change that to meters per second. So something to notice here, see how it was given to us with the slanty fraction bar there, but when we wrote it out, we did it with the numerator and the denominator, and this bar is horizontal like this. We always want to set it up like that because then it makes it clear what is in our numerator and what is in our denominator. So don't ever write your fractions with that slanty bar when you're doing these math computations. Write it vertically like this. All right, so we want to change miles to meters, and we want to change hours to seconds. So I'm going to focus on miles first. So let's write the problem out. Miles per hour. Now I'm going to start to set up my conversion factor. So I'm going to put the bar in there, and I want to change the miles. Since it's in the numerator, I'm going to write it in the denominator. And I want to change miles to meters. If we look at the table, we know that there's 1,609 meters in 1 mile. All right, so that took care of my miles. Now I'm left with meters. Now I want to change my hours to seconds. So my hours is in my denominator, so now I'm going to put it in the numerator. That way those will cancel. And if you don't know how many seconds are in an hour, you could always go hours to minutes first. So 1 hour is 60 minutes. And then we could go minutes to seconds. So since I want minutes to change, I put it in the numerator since it was in the denominator. So there's 60 seconds in 1 minute. All right, and we can check and make sure I'm left with meters in my numerator and seconds in my denominator. So I'm going to just put this over 1. Now I can put everything in the calculator. So when I'm putting it into the calculator, I want to put everything that's going in the numerator, I want to open the parentheses. So I make sure I have all of those staying together. So I have 57.66 times 1609 And that's it, because everything else is ones up there. And then I'm going to divide it by and open parentheses again. And I have 60 times 60. All right, so our answer is 25.77081667, and that's meters per second. All right, how many significant digits? Well, this has 4, and this has 4. And these ones, it looks like they only have 2, but I know 1 hour is exactly 60 minutes, and I know 1 hour is exactly 60 seconds. So these are exact conversions here. So our answer, the least number of significant digits we have is 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And is that 7 going to stay the same or go up? Stays the same. So it's 25.77 meters per second. All right, so for this one, we have 472.15, and it says GPS. Okay, when you see the P like that, it means per. So this stands for gallons per second. And somewhere we see that a lot is when we talk about like miles per hour. We see MPH, miles per hour. So if you see that P there, that means that you're talking about a fraction, miles per hour, or this one that we're talking about over here is gallons per second. And we want to change that to liters per hour. All right, so I'm going to start, we have 472.15, we have gallons per second, and I want to change gallons to liters. So I'm going to put my fraction, my conversion factor here. I want gallons in the denominator so that will cancel, and I want to change it to liters. Let's see if we have that over here. All right, we have that right here. So 3.785 liters are in 1 gallon. Okay, so now I took care of my gallons to liters. Now I want my seconds to be in hours. So it was in the denominator. I'm going to put it in the numerator so it cancels. And I'm going to go seconds to minutes first. So there's 60 seconds in 1 minute. Now I'm going to change my minutes, put it in the numerator so it'll cancel to hours. So there's 60 minutes in 1 hour. So the seconds are going to cancel and the minutes will cancel. So in my numerator, I'm going to be left with the unit for liters, and in my denominator, I have hours. All right, now let's plug everything in the calculator and see what we get here. So I'm going to open the parentheses and do everything in my numerator. So I have 472.15 times 3.785 times 60 times 60. You know what? There's nothing in the denominator anyway, so I could do divide by 1, but I don't have to. All right, so we get 64,33515.9. All right, let's see how many significant digits we should keep here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This has 5 significant digits. This has 1, 2, 3, 4 significant digits. So 4 is our highest number of significant digits. 1, 2, 3, our lowest. So our answer is going to have 4 significant digits. So 64, 3, and this one's going to change to a 4. 1, 2, 3. Okay, for this one, we're going to change 43.17 millimeters per hour to kilometers per year. So let's start with 43.17 millimeters per hour. Now I'm going to change millimeters to, I want millimeters into kilometers. So I'm going to change it to meters first. So millimeters in the denominator, and I know there's 1,000 millimeters in 1 meter. And if you weren't sure about that, you could look at your table in the back. Okay, now I want to, millimeters are gone. I want to change meters to kilometers. Okay, and there's 1,000 meters in 1 kilometer. All right. Now I want to change hours to years. Hour was in the bottom, so I'll put it in the top. And I'm going to go to days first. So there's 24 hours in 1 day. And that canceled my hours. And now there's 365 days in 1 year. Okay. So in our numerator, we're only left with kilometers, and in our denominator, we're left with years. All right, so let's plug these numbers in. 43.17. And then we have times 1 times 24 times 365. We're going to divide that by 1,000 times 1,000 in the denominator. All right, and we get 0.3781692 kilometers per year. All right. Now, how many significant digits? Well, this has 4. These are exact. These are exact. 24 hours in a day is exact. Oh, 365 days in a year. That's not very exact because we actually have that leap year to account for that. So this has only 3 significant digits. So our answer is going to have 1, 2, 3 significant digits. So 0.378 kilometers per year. All right, for this one, we're going to do 3,550 centimeters cubed to meters cubed. So we have 3,550. And see how we're going from a unit cubed to another unit cubed? The way I like to do these is I like to set that up as centimeters times centimeters times centimeters. And I feel like that just helps me make sure I do the other one the right number of times. So now if I'm trying to change centimeters to meters, so I want centimeters to go away, so I'm going to put it in the denominator. I'm going to do it 3 times. And I know that there's 100 centimeters in 1 meter, 100 centimeters in 1 meter, and 100 centimeters in 1 meter. Okay, my centimeters canceled, these centimeters. Okay, so in the numerator here, I have 3,550, and then I'm going to divide that by, I have 100, and I'll open up my parentheses because I want to make sure I divide by the product of all these hundreds, not just by 100 once. All right, and I get 0.00355 meters cubed. Because I have meters times meters times meters. All right, and we have 3 significant digits here and 3 significant digits here. I don't think we've come across this yet. Significant digits are, you start for the first number that you have on your left, so it's a 3, and then you go to the right until you get to zeros. So here, even though these zeros are on the left here, they don't count as significant digits because you start with the first one on the left. All right, for this one, we're going to do 5.85 miles per hour squared to MKS. Right. So miles is dealing with length, so we want to change that to meters. And hours squared is dealing with time, so we want to change that to seconds squared. So I'm just going to write that. So we're changing that to meters per second squared. All right, so we have 5.85 miles, and I'm going hours squared to seconds squared. So I'm going to do per hour, and then we're going to do another per hour. Okay, that way I end up with my hours squared in the denominator. All right, so let's first do miles to meters. So for our conversion factor, I'm going to put miles in the denominator so that those will cancel, and I want to change it to meters. Okay, and it's 1,609 meters in 1 mile. All right, now I have my meters. Now I want to change my hours to seconds. So I'm going to go hours to minutes first. So I'm going to do hour in the numerator and minute in the denominator. And I have to do that twice because that only cancels the hour once. All right, now I cancel both my hours. But now I have to change those minutes to seconds. So the minutes are going to go up here, 60 seconds down here. All right, and minutes, minutes, cancels minutes, minutes. All right, so in the numerator, I'm left with meters, and then in the denominator, I'm left with seconds times seconds, or seconds squared. All right, so let's plug that all into the calculator. So we have 5.85. Oops, you know what? I forgot the parenthesis again. All right, times 1609. And then we're going to divide that by, and my denominator, a bunch of ones. All right, 60 times 60 times 60 times 60. You might have just realized you could do 60 to the fourth, but we'll just write it out how we see it. All right, so we get 7.262847222. And that e to the fourth there, that means that's scientific notation times 10 to the negative 4. So if I wanted to put this into standard notation, I'd move that 1, 2, 3, 4 places over. So it'd be 0.007262847. All right. So the pink run right there is scientific notation, and then the green one is standard notation. All right, so let's see how many significant digits. Here we have 3. Here we have 4. These are exact, so we don't have to worry about error in those. All right, so three significant digits is our least that we have. So we're going to count 1, 2, 3. And that 6 is staying the same. That 2 is not going to bump it up. So it's 7.26 times 10 to the negative 4th meters per second squared, or 0.0000726 meters per second squared.